If there's one formless substance from which all things physically originate, this can mean wonderful things for you and your life. It could hold such promise of what you could achieve, no matter how many times you failed in your past. That is what today's video is going to be about. Because if we grasp this concept of one substance manifesting as many forms in the physical world, then we will also grasp that anything we imagine and feel inside is part of this invisible substance from which all things are manifested. So in other words, anything you imagine and feel is real, but it might not be visible to your physical eyes. That is all there is to it. Now, if you have any difficulty accepting this, perhaps it can change your mind after hearing the rest of this video. Now, how do we cause the formless riches and success we can see in our imagination turn into concrete reality? Now, that is a good question. And we can learn how this is done by observing the phenomena that takes place in the physical world. We always pay attention to the creative process through which the unmanifested ideas in our minds turn into the visible manifestations we call reality. First, we want to grasp that our consciousness is the connecting link between us and the formless substance of life. It is all about how we are using our imagination and how we feel within our consciousness that is going to dictate what sort of concept this substance will take for us individually. The issue humanity faces is our tendency to reject this concept on the basis of our current reality. If we look around ourselves and we see most of the conflicts going on in the world, we cannot easily accept this premise, for surely this destruction and chaos couldn't possibly be part of such a wonderful substance of unity. Well, it is. You see, it is the human being that directs the direction this substance goes. That is why the saying that God became man so that man became gods is true. We learn through this life experience what it means to have a consciousness and how to direct it. This means we also have to accept the fact that anything negative and destructive is simply another concept of consciousness thrown into form. Alright? So with this acceptance, we still haven't gotten rid of the negative in our lives. This can only occur once we start to experiment and put this power to the test. This was also written in scripture, that we should come and test ourselves to see whether we are holding to the faith. How do we test ourselves? Individually speaking, we can do this by deliberately building visions of fulfilled desires. It doesn't matter what your neighbors are doing, what your children are up to, what your partner is doing. Set them all mentally aside for the time being. Instead, I want you to focus on the fact that everything in life we can see with our senses is a replica of some sort of a mental conception we have held inside our minds. If then we work with positive concepts inside consciousness, we will be able to alter our lives accordingly. Again, what we want to grasp is the creative process through which we can measure how this all happens. If I hold an idea inside my mind, the ways for its fulfillment are set in motion. If I hold ideas of lack and limitation, I will feel bad and limited, and therefore I cannot build my way out of such mental concepts, and my life takes on the limitations of my own mind. I have found that if I focus mentally on my own fulfilled desires, no matter where I stand physically, no matter how poor I might seem to be, no matter how bad my circumstances may seem to look, I will still attract the ways for the fulfilling of this mental conception. This is important to remember. If but this power dawns upon you, you can start right where you are and multiply the goodness that you have within your consciousness. Now let me ask you something. If you sit down somewhere and you could quiet your mind, what will your body do? It will simply stay in the position you left it. It will stay there forever and ever until someone moves you or you start moving it yourself. Now, how is it being moved around? By the consciousness that abides within it. Your body is part of the physical world and operates according to the consciousness that abides within it. Meaning, it only does what it does by the invisible true spiritual self. What causes this spiritual self to decide what it will do? Well, the spiritual self is part of the unmanifested, and it operates according to how the unmanifested works. It waits on visions of fulfilled desires or on visions of lack. But once we made a decision on what we want to build inside our consciousness, it will compel the body to take actions according to the invisible self. This is how the unmanifested ultimately shows itself in the world of manifestation and can also manifest new concepts from its invisible self that lay beyond previous experiences we may have had. This is what causes us to outgrow any and all circumstances we face. Can you believe in this? If you do, wonders will start to happen in your life, and you shall discover your immortal self, that part of you that operates independent of circumstances. This is your God faculty, the ability to think and imagine independent of limited physical circumstances, and by complete obedience to this inner vision and feeling, we alter our physical worlds. How will any of this benefit you? You may wonder. Even if everything comes from the same formless substance, how would this possibly be of any advantage? Well, it literally means that your imagination, your feelings, are part of this invisible substance. If one can feel wealthy and successful, they are in contact with the essence behind all physical phenomena. By staying connected inwardly with the concepts of wealth and success, one can outpicture these invisible concepts in the visible realm of life. In other words, if you are physically poor, you can still be mentally rich in consciousness, and if one activates the consciousness of wealth and abides in it, one will attract the ways for its fulfillment. The beautiful part, therefore, is that you don't have to worry about the physical world nearly as much as you might have been doing. Instead, our only job is to keep things going right in the inner world of the mind. Where do most people start? Well, they look at the manifested side of life and then worry and doubt if it will ever improve. But the person who looks into the unmanifested realms of the mind will discover that by doing so they fall under the compulsion to manifest these invisible ideas and visions they hold within their consciousness. They are not dependent on the current reality and state of being. They know they can outgrow it as long as their consciousness is in harmony with whatever is needed to actually outgrow the physical poverty they now observe with their physical senses, which again are part of the manifested side of life. Even though we are currently using the term poverty, a smart student will always ask themselves, if this can work to fix poverty in our lives, can this also work for other areas in our lives? And of course, if all things come from the same formless substance, the answer to this is yes. We have to set aside our disbeliefs and learn to put the power of consciousness to the test. It knows no limits, save those we ourselves create and obey. If we can feel in harmony with our own imagination and the things we envision for ourselves, they must become true for us. The ultimate test is your willingness to apply it to any area you face. You will notice if you are doing it correctly, first you will feel hopeful and empowered, and all sorts of positive emotions start to arise within consciousness. As you keep your mind focused on these wonderful inner experiences, they will start to put you and the universe under a compulsion to manifest the very thing you held in mind. For again, the manifested phenomena of life is created by the unmanifested energy of the universe, and we can give form to this energy by using our consciousness in a certain way. Again, your consciousness is the connecting link between the manifested and unmanifested side of life. On the one hand, it helps us experience the manifested phenomena of life, and on the other hand, we are meant to use it to work with the unmanifested side of life through our imagination and feelings, so that we can alter life according to what is most important to us, to make it a fulfilled journey. By doing so, we become a better conduit for the invisible spirit of life to operate with and through us. We open the gate from within by using our consciousness willingly, by disregarding present facts and limitations and daring to make our claims for abundance. If you can see your ideal life inside your consciousness, that is working with the unmanifested side of life. It will compel and help you create such a reality for yourself, and it will become part of the manifested side of life for others to observe as well. You see, it all happens with and through you. The quality of your life depends on the way you use your individual consciousness. Sadly, most people are using this wonderful power against themselves, because we all have been trained to focus purely on the physical and on what is, instead of on how we can improve what is and create an even greater world for us all to enjoy. And let this concept sink deeply into your mind. Contemplate it daily. Rejoice that this power has been given to you, and then put it to the test and watch what happens. Again, if you hold a vision in your mind or have a great idea going on inside your consciousness, you cannot physically lay hold of it yet. You can't physically show it to someone else. Why not? Because here we have clear evidence it's part of the unmanifested side of life. It is part of the great power that dictates the events we will encounter in our worlds. Do you want to improve your life? You can do so right where you are, with whatever you've got. For the only thing you ever need is your own consciousness and the knowledge and understanding of how to use it wisely and effectively. Now, with that being said, dear viewer, never forget that we are the dreamers.